I'm working on the rear harness for the lights at the back. The stock harness has got a bunch of circuits that I don't need anymore. I'm not going to use the rear windshield wiper, defrost, and pump and stuff. So that's where I got it cold. But that stuff's out of the way. I'm building a new harness. So the old one's in front here, and all those connectors are shot. So I've got new connectors, as I showed last summer, and new LED lights. So I'm going to be kind of mocking it all up and then soldering it, and I'll terminate it with a quick disconnect, and then run it up to the front of the car for the control into the relays in the computer. So that's the project of the week here, or at least for this first part of the week. So that's the wiring harness for the rear of the car. I'm still missing some of the single circuit LEDs, so I have to sort of move them around to test them, but they've got resistors in there to kind of reduce the brightness of the what they call the tail light. So the way it works is there's these two are both tail light slash brake lights, so they're on a dull setting, and then they go to a high setting when you attach the brake. These ones are normally off, except when turning or when backing up. So what I've done is I've just reduced the brightness of the center ones when the car's not, because these even though these lights, the dual circuit lights, do have two settings on the LED, the background setting was too bright. So got them all adjusted. Harness is ready to go. A quick comment. They're both Gila. This is an aftermarket one, and it's clear, or it doesn't have a black paint on it. This is the original. We got black paint on the tops and bottoms, as well as the ridges are painted. I'm not a huge fan of the black, checkered look on the backs. I think it's sort of overkill. It looks a little heavy, in fact, but I like the black top and bottom relative to the clear. This looks just unfinished, so I may or may not put the checkered lines on. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount them in the car and see how it looks. They may look cleaner without the checkered lines. I know it's not totally original, but the original car does look a little tacky with some of the livery that's on it. So I'll get the black plastic paint the top and bottom, and then I'll think long and hard about hand painting the with a foam brush very carefully the center pieces after the car is put together. Over here I'm playing with the backup camera, and so basically with the rear view mirror, when the car is in reverse, that's the green line here, so transmission switch clicks into reverse, enables the backup camera, this little guy. So I'm going to have him mounted, you've got these license plate lights, and this will, on either side of the camera, and then the camera's going to be, sitting like this, staring at whatever. And this camera's kind of interesting. It's got these, you can turn them off, but it has guide markers, and if you mount the camera slightly off center, you can actually digitally move these markers around and move them up and down depending on the height of the camera and how much of a wide angle the camera is, so that it lines up with known distances on the surface of the road, which is kind of a neat idea. It's also got a temperature sensor that I can mount down the spoiler, down low, to catch cold air, and then read the temperature and the compass over here, so it's sort of nice and modern and clean. I like backup cameras, and it's also got a forward-facing camera, which I could use if you're trying to move up and not hit something. But the front of the car, not really sure I'm going to use it. But there is a second video input that allows you to switch back and forth between the two. Just it's a little bit clumsy. It seems to normally be on. You have to sort of disable it. So I'll figure out whether I want to do that or not. So there we go. I'm making rear of the car wiring decisions as we speak. So I got the Lella AutoSport 50mm spacer put in properly with the Allen head socket bolts, which I wanted. So those are the 40mm, and they stick out about 3 or 4mm from the back, so it's perfect, so they don't have an interference fit. 12.9 grade versus the 10 grade. So the idea is that we're leveraged out a little bit. There's more stress on these bolts than there would be on the stock bolts, so I like to go up 1 grade of strength. And then these match all the braking grade components, the 12.9s, which is the highest grade you can get on the fasteners. So it's just a nice look. I'm actually waiting for, there is a shield that protects the bearing, a little metal shield that sort of just goes over this area and comes, flattens out and just goes up against the end of the disc. And it's just not a common part anymore. It's hard to get a hold of, so I've got it off of eBay in the guy in Greece that has a lot of the new old stock. So I'm waiting for those to arrive, and when those arrive, then I can finish assembling the rear axles with all the remaining parts. So that'll be kind of good. So I'm ready to put the black on these rear lamp assemblies. So I've used my frog tape to tape them off. I've 600 grit sanded them, and then I've used some SEM product for prepping the surface, and then I'll use adhesion promoter, and then finally I'll hit it with the black parasol. By the way, talking about brain damage, so I went to this effort this comes from my compressor. This is the 25 feet of sort of condensing or cooling pipe with some drain cocks at the bottom. Runs into a secondary air receiver, so I go from 200 psi down to 100, and then from there to the gun through this DeVillibis, is that how you pronounce it? Anyway, it's cam air, and I never pronounce it, so DeVillibis. So basically this cam air QC3, I bought it and thought it was wonky because when I was using it, it never actually wore the air dryer out. And then someone on the internet said, "Oh, be careful, take them apart, because when they ship them, they often break inside." And sure enough, the dissicant container inside this thing was fucked, and it had fallen to the bottom, so the air wasn't going through the dissicant at all. Just like fuck. Anyway, so lucky enough, the rest of the system was drying the paint, drying the air out to some degree, but this wasn't doing its job. So that's the first thing that was wrong with it. So I fixed that, took it apart, repaired it, put it back together properly. 2, this was never regulating the air properly. So right now I've got it set for about 35 pounds in, and it drops under pressure to 29, which is what I want. I'll just show you. So if I grab the gun, got the gun set at 29, so there's no surging anymore. This is the problem I had previously. So you can watch the gauge. So I'm dropping sort of 8 psi when I pull the trigger, but I'm not getting, there's no burst of pressure anymore. So it's I got a system that actually functions now. So anyway, I'm going to actually mount the rear view camera. I've drilled, it's fucking harder than you'd think, but I drilled the hole back in the corner here, and it's large enough to feed the cable through, and it's all been deburred and painted again. What I do is I put zinc primer, and then I put a clear coat, or sometimes I put silver and then the clear coat on it, just so it protects the metal. And then I've got this powered antenna. It's sort of gross, but don't like the original antenna location. So, and that with some rattle proofing, I will embed the wiring through here down on the back, the windsail panel, and then I've decided all this crap in here. I'm going to reroute all cables for the power amp and for the battery and everything back out through here, over the wheel well, down inside the channel, and then I'll drill a hole, 1-inch diameter hole right near the firewall, and then bring all the cables up under the carpet there. So this whole carpeted area, everything in here will be clean. And I've put a Molex connector for the rear wiring harness, so all this stuff here, it's not in permanently in yet because I want to get all the cables organized, and then I'll wrap them in a cable braid, feed them through all the way through the front, and then I'm going to actually inject foam. I'm going to use the Hilti foam tool, and I'm going to actually fill the channels in the car with foam, so I don't have that heat cooling, condensing, moisture condensing on the insides of the panels, and then eventually rotting everything back out again. So I don't have the proper drains that the original factory had anymore now that I put my frame rails in. So the idea is, and this is my dad helping me out on this, is to say, look, just fill those channels full of foam, structural foam. It'll actually help stiffen the car, it'll quieten the car, it'll keep it from rattling if there's wires or any kind of assemblies inside there. And but it's kind of permanent. Once you put that in there, good luck welding again, good luck with body work. So it's kind of scary to do foam injection, but I'm going to risk it and have all the wiring hidden out of the way, not have it under the carpet. So there, off to painting now. Well, I think they look a lot better like this, actually. It's funny. I've got these strange tastes, and I like the black outline and the clear middle, and you know, it looks really sharp right now. I could paint those center bars, but again, I don't like that crisscross look to them, so these things actually look pretty smart as they are, so I'm gonna put them on like this. Well, I killed the backup camera, had it all installed, and then I decided that I wanted to cut off the connector and wire it. I have some nice shielded twisted pair that I use for the audio connections between the head end and the amp and other things, and these little cameras from China don't have shielded wiring, which I kind of think is horrible. Even though the signal seems to be fine, it leaves them susceptible to noise. So anyway, I fucking lopped off the connector and made a transition to nice shielded pair wire that I was then going to run to the front of the car, and with integrated power. But it turns out these cameras are 3 volts, not 12 volts. So I smoked it. And guess what? The 3-volt regulator is embedded in the power connector that came with it. So the little power connector that, you know, it's not going to, it doesn't have it's just a barrel connector, so it can easily vibrate loose. I didn't want to use that either, but it turns out that it's got a 3.3 volt regulator embedded in the connector, which wasn't obvious to me, even though I'm an electrical engineer. So anyway, I've ordered another one. So I've been mounting, you know, various things, and so I'm drilling out these holes rather than using sheet metal screws to hold things like the side markers and the license plate lights and things like that. I'm drilling them out for a number 4 screw, and you know, for the tail lights I'm just going to use, you know, standard stainless stuff. For these I'm going to use a black oxide button head M4s. I'll have to order the right length because these things have got long screws. Anyway, that way I can mount them and move them around. And there's nothing that's absolutely square here. These lights, they slope in slightly at the back. They're not straight up and down. This is certainly not a straight line here, so you got to kind of compromise in terms of how you visually want that thing to look, in terms of how you want to line it up. So I want a little bit of wiggle room. Sheet metal screws aren't going to give that to me. So I generally hate the idea of sheet metal screws. So these things have been drilled out, and then I basically fill them in with it's a galvanizing compound and then clear coating. I think I already explained that. So just want to show you this tool for deburring the holes. The Chaviv tool. This is like $35 on Amazon. 2 different heads with all these different. This is a TIN coating, the higher quality coatings. So we just stick it in the hole and spin it around and get rid of the burrs on the edges of the hole. So it's better than using a drill, an oversized drill. And I'm happy I got that. It's good for sheet metal, just on the edges of long pieces of sheet metal. Once you've cut them, you can just clean them up. So happy I finally got that. And in this box here, underneath, is a 24-inch sheet metal brake. And I've got a punch, so I can do better brackets. I'd like to get an even bigger Roper Whitney hand punch. You can pull the lever. I'm thinking of buying one of those as well, just so I can punch larger holes through thicker metal, rather than drilling holes. So starting to get my sheet metal stuff going on here, so I can get better and better at this stuff, even though this project is drawing to a close. So I've cut, using a metal hole saw, I've cut a 1-inch diameter hole in the corner there at the end of the frame rail, and I've painted it with galvanizing paint and then silver, and then I can run all my heavy lines, including that 1/0 line, through the frame rail and then up inside. So I think it's going to work out really well. So I've temporarily used stainless 4x25 millimeter pan head screws, and I'm going to use button head ones that are black. I've just ordered them, so that'll all work well. I've test mounted one of the lights as well. A bit of a bitch to get the nuts on the back after I drilled the holes out for them, but yeah, it works.